No.
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 That's a no. All right. What it is, my preference, because I'm not Italian, is to have my hands free to talk. I may not be able to speak while you do it.
Okay, flags. All right, how about now? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. On behalf of the National Corvette Museum, my name is Paul Pearson, and we're here today to talk about the Chevrolet Corvette Navigation System. The presentation today is for the 6th generation Corvette Nav. As we know, it's the only Corvette that actually has a navigation system in it. It's based on a written tutorial that I did roughly 3 years ago. It's a 60-page supplement. Photographs, text-based, it's in PDF format, it's downloadable from a number of sources, internet forums, and my website. We're not going to get through everything today. It's not intended to be all-inclusive. At the end of the seminar, though, I have a gift for everybody. I've put today's presentation, I've put a copy of that PDF, that 60-page tutorial, and some other fun facts and useful tips, how to build MP3 CDs for your nav radio. They're all on a CD. Everybody that's here today is going to get a copy of it to take away with you. So you can put your notepads away to some extent, because everything we're going to cover, then we'll get back to in the Q&A period. And after we wrap up the Q&A, we'll hand out the CDs. And then if anybody needs any interactive time, one-on-one time with the nav system, my car's outside. Other folks, if you've got your car here or your nav, if you'd be more comfortable working with yours, I'll be happy to get together with anybody, and we'll go over your system and your specific questions, if that would be helpful, okay? All right, without further ado, the goal today is to get you to be able to use the nav system when you leave this presentation at a minimum on a very basic level. If that's, if you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. Sound fair? All right. Show of hands, how many folks in here have navigation system currently in their Corvette? Show of hands, how many people use the navigation system in their Corvette? And last show of hands, how many people like the navigation system in their Corvette? All right, more than I thought. Well, I'm hoping to change that hand count by the time we leave here today, and by the time you get used to using your nav system. I think you're going to find that it's a very, very, there we go. It's a very, very capable DVD-based navigation system. And you may not believe me now, but I'm hoping to prove it to you both through the interactive presentation that we're going to do, and further once we get you into your car using it and I get the full tutorial into your hands. The nav system in the Corvette has a very, very bad reputation. It's a reputation that's born out of frustration and difficulty to use. It was developed in 2004. It was developed for the Corvette's architecture. Unfortunately, the architecture in the Corvette is a bit of an island within General Motors and within Chevrolet. Other nav systems that are in play in other vehicles aren't compatible with the communications bus within the Corvette. So what we have is the Denso unit, and although it's undergone some very subtle changes in the background over the course of the model years, the user interface hasn't changed, the ease of use hasn't changed, the screen hasn't changed. Definitely not as easy to use as many of the aftermarket systems, those other companies that Jack was kind of mentioned. All right. This morning, we're going to have 5 basic main points that we want to work with. Overview and setting up the system. Then we're going to get into system basics. I've got some tips that make data entry a ton better, a lot less frustrating, and are going to give you a much better odds of finding what you're trying to find when you go searching for something in the database. Functions available while in motion. Big complaint that I hear from owners is that my Garmin lets me do this, and one of the things it lets you do is you're driving down the freeway, you decide you don't want to go to Burger King, you want to go to Wendy's, and pop up the screen and start making entries. Or you remember that you need to run by someplace and start entering. GM, being an OEM unit, the legal folks didn't want us access to the unit while it's in motion. The engineers did. So what they did was they worked with the folks at Denso to actually build in a couple of things that you can do while you're driving, and it actually, surprisingly, does more than you'd believe initially. I'm going to talk about common pitfalls. Common pitfalls are the things that we can all do differently to make the nav system react better. At the end of the day, it's a piece of technology. As much as you put into it, it's going to give you back out. I'm going to talk a little bit to that in the slides. And then some other things that are on the CD that you're going to get, and I'll pop up a couple of slides quickly, is other GM vehicles that the nav disc is compatible with, features and facts, access to the user tutorial where you can download it, but as I said, I've got it provided on a CD for you. And the last, we're going to do a Q&A session. We've got 90 minutes in here this morning before the next seminar comes up. If we need to use all of them, we're free to use all of them. If we need more time than that, after the next seminar ends at 11 o'clock, I'd be more than happy to get together with you. So. All right, ready to get started? All right, well, as I said, we're going to start with setting up in some basics. Everybody know what these buttons here up on the side? Everybody use those buttons? Right there is the menu screen. You see that pop up on the map screen all the time. That gets you back to the main input menu. I'm going to talk about it in two ways. There's the main map screen, which is really the main screen that the engineers intended for you to have up all the time. So that's technically the main user interface of the DVD system. The menu button is going to take you back to where you can enter a destination, where you can do your user preferences and setup features. It's the second most popular screen that you're going to be interacting with in the email. And you'll always get back to that via the back arrow or the menu key. How many people knew that if you press the clock button, you'll get the date to display, and if you press and hold it, it'll take you to the setup screen, so you can change the time zone, change daylight savings time, and so on. Anybody know that? Everybody know that? All right, there you go. One first tip of the day. And this screen is important because when you get to a menu screen, it's not always apparent that there's more features behind that menu screen. So this screen will tell you that it's menu 1 of 2. And if you press that right arrow key, it'll actually index you over to the second menu. There we go. All right, these are the two screens that I was talking about. On the top left is the main map screen. It's got a compass. In this case, it's displaying north. The red indicates north. There's the menu button, change your scale. And these will change your map modes. I don't talk very much about the map modes in today's presentation, but my tutorial has a full section on it, so you can reference it when you need. Main map screen, down in the lower right, is the main menu screen. This is where you're going to go to do everything behind the scenes that you need to do with the system, in terms of entering a destination, getting it to stored locations, setting up the unit, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and route options, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today. All right, these are the must-dos, in my opinion, if you've brought home a new Corvette. And when I say new Corvette, that includes both new, fresh from the dealer lot, factory order, and it also includes new to you. You've picked up a used Corvette, it has a nav system, you've not worked on it before, you don't know a lot about the car. These are the things that I recommend you do every single time you bring home a new Corvette to your house. You should start off automatically by restoring the system defaults. Doing that will guarantee you that you're starting with the absolute perfect baseline. There's no leftover information, there's no trapped destinations, there's nobody else's home screen present in there, so it's not going to be trying to take you to somebody else's house. If you bought the car off a dealer lot, you know the people have played with the nav system, the dealer's trying to get comfortable with the nav system. They may have input information, you want to make sure that you get it cleaned out. You want to check the GPS antenna reception. If you ever have a situation where on your nav screen you see a white box with the word GPS in it and a red line through it, that's indicating that you're not getting a GPS signal reception at that point. The antenna can't see the satellite. The GPS doesn't always do a very good job other than that of letting you know, because the GPS has a fantastic dead reckoning capability. It uses inputs from all the other vehicle sensors, the vehicle speed sensor, the steering wheel position sensor, the speedometer, the tachometer, and it will actually follow along a nav screen just based on what you're doing in the car, whether or not it actually gets a signal. That's a fantastic feature if you're in a densely forested area, or if you're in a city with a lot of tall buildings, or if you're going through a long tunnel. This GPS isn't going to drop out like your aftermarket unit might, because it's only relying on the small signal and it's not tied into the vehicle at all. Calibrate the system location if required. If you started trying to use the GPS and it's not finding things, it's not getting a signal right, it's not navigating, it's not giving you voice prompts, the possible problem might be that it's not calibrated. GPS technology is truly based on repetition. In front of you, you have a map screen, and it's a graphical representation of the area around you. GPS can't see any of that. It's relying strictly on ones and zeros. It's all input from a GPS satellite, and it's sending out repeated coordinates. The DVD screen interprets those coordinates and turns them into a graphical image that you can actually read and follow. When you put a Corvette on a truck, come from Bowling Green and say going out to Washington State, GPS doesn't know where it is. The first time it looks in the sky, it was here in Bowling Green. If it gets off the truck and wakes up, and the next time it looks up in the sky and it's in Washington State, it's still trying to find the signal from a GPS satellite that was here over Bowling Green. So there's a way in the setup menu to actually recalibrate that position by indexing the map screen manually. Sorry about that. Okay. You want to make sure you're using the correct DVD and the correct region. Starting in 2008 with version 4 of the DVD software, the system changed from one map DVD to two map DVDs. They're an east and a west. And I'm going to cover what geographic locations those regions and those discs actually cover. You want to make sure you set up your user preferences. If you don't tell it to allow freeways, for example, it won't use them. So if you're trying to route someplace and you told it not to use freeways or not to use toll roads, it's going to take you around all back roads. So if you're going on journeys and you don't know why it's taking you the way that it's going, that's one possible reason. Make sure you enter your home location for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, because it's going to be the easiest way to get you back to someplace you're familiar with if you're out on a trip. It's fun. I use my GPS to go exploring. I'll turn off onto a back road, drive around for a while until I get myself lost, press the home icon, and let it take me back to someplace I know. Second thing, and a little bit of advice, a lot of people recommend that you don't actually enter your home address. Enter something close, enter the end of your street. If you want to be really entertaining to a criminal, enter the nearest police station to your house. With that home icon, you've given a thief the opportunity and the means to not only steal your car, but to get back to your house, because since he knows you're not home, and you don't want it taking him right back there. No, you know, your registration is likely to be in the glove box. If they want it, they're going to get it. But just point of reference, maybe set it up for the end of your street rather than your actual house. Set up quick POIs. Those are points of interest, and the quick POIs are the ones that display on your map screen. And I'm going to talk about a quick tip in here because I get feedback from a lot of people that they don't like the point of interest icons up on the screen. It clutters the map screen, I can't see the roads, and. Just by changing the scale one notch, you can turn those on and off without actually turning them off. You can simply make them disappear. And the reason those are important is because you can interact with those on the map screen while driving. And much as I hate to say it, because none of us do it, read the owner's manual. After you've read the owner's manual, read my tutorial and it'll explain the owner's manual. Because the owner's manual it's infuriating at best and frustrating at least. And practice, practice, practice. Unfortunately, because this unit is not easy to use, because it's not intuitive, because it's not interactive, because reading the manual leaves you more confused than when you started, the best thing you can do is actually sit down in front of the unit and go through some exercises. I've got some exercises in my tutorial that you can do to interact with the screens. The nav unit will not operate while the vehicle is in accessory mode. You need to have the car on. Well, with gas reaching $4 a gallon, you don't want to sit there in your driveway with the engine running. You certainly don't want to sit in your closed garage with the engine running for obvious reasons. So the tip is that you can gain access to all the features in the navigation system by putting the vehicle into ignition on, engine off mode. Just how many people know what that is or how to get there? All right, pretty good showing. If you press and hold the bottom of the rocker switch like you were trying to put the car into accessory mode or you were trying to turn the ignition off, press and hold it for 10 seconds. The vehicle will come to life, but the engine won't start. But what it will do is it'll give you access to every system, everything in the vehicle that you can do while the motor is running, except the engine will be off. For those of us with C6s, and we're all here on the C6 navigation system, I'm venturing that that's many of us remember the battery in the C6. If you have a tender, you might consider plugging it in while you're doing that. After about 20 minutes, you'll see a note come up on the driver's information center, and it's going to tell you that the battery saver mode is active, and that's turning off non-critical systems that you're not interacting with, things that it would be using while the vehicle is in motion. But you don't want to leave yourself with a dead battery practicing how to use your GPS, because you've defeated the purposes, now you really can't go in there. All right, setting up the system. From the main menu, again, not the main map screen, select Navigation Setup. When you go into Navigation Setup, this is going to bring you to some of those screens that we've talked about. The most important ones, in my opinion, are User Settings, Restore System Default, Quick POI Selection, and Calibration. This is the menu. I've just put up a quick screenshot of 3 of the significant systems. Restore System Default's very easy. You're going to press that button from the main menu, or from the setup menu. It's going to come up, Restore System Defaults. It's basically going to say, you sure you want to do that? Just click OK, and it's going to set everything back to factory settings. On User Settings, Arrival Time and Guidance Screen are 2 things that you can consider. The GPS works in one of 2 fashions for guiding you. It's either going to look to estimated time en route, or it's going to look to arrival time. I prefer estimated time en route, but you have some choices there in terms of navigating that. That one's not a critical. Road restriction warnings are important because the GPS database is more limited than some of the new ones. And the road restrictions warnings are going to, it'll pop up a message on the screen, and there will be an audible prompt that'll say, some of the streets are of limited use, turn-by-turn directions will not be available. It'll continue following the routes. And basically what that indicates, and oh, by the way, that's the street I live on. My GPS can't take me home because my road is an old farm road that turned into a real road, and when you look at it on the map screen, it's a light gray. All of the streets that you see at about the quarter-mile scale in light gray, the GPS is going to have a problem with. But guidance screen is very important. You're going to have some difficulty with turn-by-turn, and freeway information is very important. Freeway information is one of the split-screen map features, where when you're navigating on a trip that includes a highway, on the right-hand side of the screen, it's going to bring up freeway information. And the freeway information are things like which types of points of interest, restaurants, gas stations, banks, are off exits that you're approaching. And it gives you a split screen. It tells you the exit number. It tells you how many miles you are from it. And it tells you what features are off of that exit. So if you're on a trip, you can just take a quick look at the freeway information screen and find out if there's anything that you need to do in the upcoming miles. Calibration screen is, again, if you're getting a red line through your GPS signal, this is one way that you can do it. This is basically adjusting the current position. You'll push on that button, it'll bring you back to the map screen, and basically using your finger, just scroll on the map screen, touch either arrows, you can rotate, and you can move by touching the extremes of the map screen, and it will index the map over until you get kind of close to where you are. What that's doing is it's trying to help the satellite antenna and the GPS locate closer satellites to where it thinks it is versus where it really is. So those are threes that are off the must-do list. Janet, could you index the slide for me? Thank you very much. All right, setting up the system. I can't state this enough. Always make sure you're in the right geographic region for the nav DVD and what you're trying to do. Get there by going to the Enter Destination Map screen, which is up here. Click on the Region button, and that's going to bring up what the map database refers to as the search area. This is critical for getting to where you need to get to in the right part of the country. Think of how many main streets there are in the United States of America. If you're trying to find Main Street in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and your region is set up on California or the New England states, you're going to get main streets, and it's going to tell you that you've got about 1,500 miles to go, and you're going to wonder what's going on. So always, always, always make sure you set up for the right region. The way that the nav DVDs are split up from, as I said, in 2008, from version 4 forward, the nav DVDs are split with the West disc having regions 1 through 7 and all of Canada. The East disc has regions 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there is overlap in the center of the country in regions 6 and 7, and it also contains all of Canada. Can we go back to right there? Perfect. And this is in your owner's manual in case you ever feel like reading it. This is the breakout of the geographic region. So as you see, both have Canada. They both encompass regions 6 and 7. The East Coast is seemingly more densely populated with what the database considers major data entry regions and points of interest.